Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next speaker. 真ん中の方お進みになってください。立ったままでもよろしいですか。お写真撮る方、ちょっと手を挙げていただけると、ちょっと目線欲しい方、ちょっと手を挙げていただけると分かりやすいと思います。
こちらお願いします。ありがとうございます。
この辺でよろしいでしょうか。お席の方お取りになってください。この辺でお願いいたします。この辺でよろしいでしょうか。
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the FCCJ, the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. We are very sorry for the late start, but we can assure you that we will have 1 full hour of press conference. My name is Ilgin Yorulmaz. I'm the second vice president at FCCJ and a freelance journalist. The verdict in the criminal case of the alleged sexual assault of then Self-Defense Forces member Rina Gonoi by the 3 former colleagues was handed down, actually, by the Fukushima District Court on December 12th. She alleges that the 3 men forced themselves upon her and assaulted her. The accused have denied the allegations, but were dishonorably discharged from the self-defense forces. Gonoi-san has also since left the self-defense forces. Her case prompted a defense ministry inquiry last year that found more than 1,400 cases of sexual and other forms of harassment. Gonoi-san was named as one of the 100 women for 2023 by the BBC, and also, I believe, was among the 100 people for the next generation for 2023 by the Time magazine. So she is going to speak about this abuse and what she was aiming when she first went on this different kind of war, I believe, as a former member of SDF, and then we will open it for questions and comments. Please, Gonoi-san. And in the meantime, I would also like to mention that we have a legal representative for the participation of the victims, Aiko Ota, here with us. So any questions, any legal questions you may want to ask her, and we will have time also for that. Thank you. Please.
すみません、お時間遅れてしまい申し訳なかったです。すみません。
First of all, I apologize for being late today.
本日はお集まりいただきありがとうございます。昨日12月12日に私に対しての強制わいせつ罪について被告人3名に有罪判決が出されました。
Thank you for coming here today. Yesterday, on December 12th, in regards to the case of sexual assault against me, the 3 accused were found guilty.
悪ふざけでは済まされない、罪は罪であると、私が訴えてきたことが全面的に裁判所でも認められました。
The court has now recognized what I have continued to speak out about. That is that things such as this cannot just be passed off as bad jokes, and that a crime is a crime.
今年6月29日から刑事裁判が始まり、初公判から第2回、3回、4回、5回、 決心、判決と半年間、彼らと向き合い戦ってきました。
The criminal trial began on June the 29th this year, and from the first trial to the second, third, fourth, and fifth trials, the trial conclusion and the verdict, I have continued to face against them and fight against them for around 6 months.
世の中に本件を告発してから約2年間、自分の人生をかけて戦ってきました。この被害の経験は必要ありませんでしたが、この戦いに無駄なことは一つもありませんでした。
Since I first spoke out about this case in public around 2 years ago, I have been continuing this fight really with my life, putting all my life toward it. Although experiencing this victimization was not something which should have been necessary, not a single thing has been wasted in this struggle over that time.
誹謗中傷も、公判も、人との関わりもすべてが自分の人生を強く、鍛えてくれる種になっていて、すごく生きていく力に変わっていきました。
The slander, the public trial, and relationships with all different people, these have all been things which became seeds in a way that allowed me to, or that made me grow stronger in my life. And they have very much even given me this energy to live.
私にとってはすべてが学びでした。なので、声を上げてから起こったことについては、すべてのことに感謝しています。
All of this, everything has been a learning experience for me. So I am thankful for everything that has happened since I spoke out.
私は世の中に声を上げてこの問題と向き合ってきましたが、この戦いが正しいとは思っていません。
I have faced this issue by speaking out to the world, but I don't believe that this is the correct way of fighting against this.
戦うという選択肢を取らずに、一人一人が今いる環境で問題が解決され、お互いに不利益がなく傷つけることもせず、個人の尊厳が守られ尊重し合い、誰も夢と希望を失うことなく生きることができるように、いつか声を上げなくてもいい社会になってほしいです。
I hope that one day we will live in a society where we do not have to speak up in this way, where we do not have to take this option to fight, where issues are resolved in the environment in which each person is already in, where there is no disadvantage or causing harm to each other, where the dignity of each individual is protected and there is mutual respect, and where no one has to live having lost their dreams or hope.
Thank you very much, Gunoi-san. We would like to remind everyone and those who are watching us online that we are open as a platform for the 3 people who were sentenced and the others who are also ongoing in the criminal case. We did try to reach out, but we're unable to do so. But we are always open here to listen their side of the story as well. And today's interpreter is also Mary Joyce, please.
質疑応答に入る前に一つ外国特派員協会からのご案内です。昨日有罪判決の出た3名についても、もしこちらの方で会見をしたいという場合はこちらの協会としてはオープンです。連絡をこちらの方からも連絡はしようとしていましたが、連絡をつくことはできませんでしたが、もし3人の有罪判決の出た人たちがこちらの方で会見を開きたいという場合はこちらの協会としてはオープンでございます。3名または民事裁判の方でも関わっている方々に対しても同じことです。
If I may just ask the first question and leave it then for the floor, you did say this is not the correct or the right way to fight this. What do you think should have happened when you first reported these incidents of assaults and harassment?
ではまず最初の質問は司会の方からさせていただきます。先ほどスピーチの中でこの戦い方が正しいとは思わないというご発言があったんですが、一番最初に、このようなことがあったということを告白したときにどのようなことはあるべきだった、どのような対応がその時必要だったというふうに思いますでしょうか。
はい、もともと私はこういう告発をするという決断は最初の時は考えてなくて、ちゃんと組織内で解決、しっかり 私に被害をしてきた人たちは直接認めて謝罪をしてほしい。そしてお互い、和解をして、すぐ仕事に戻るっていう1日あればできた話だったんですけど、彼らたちは、口裏合わせをしたりとか、見てたのに見てないとか、やっていたのにやってないっていう、話になって、どうしても組織内で、解決ができなかったので、苦渋の決断で声を上げたということになります。
So I had not been thinking, first of all, about speaking publicly about what happened. This was not a decision that I made immediately. I had been hoping that this could be resolved within the institution. The people who assaulted me, if they recognized what they did, made a direct apology, and then we could come to some kind of a settlement internally, and then I could also go back to work straight away. This is something which should have been able to be resolved and be done just even within one day. However, after I spoke up about this internally, they started to say, well, they did or didn't do this, and there was this denial and this series of things happening. And because this was not able to be resolved internally, this is why I made the very difficult decision to speak out about this publicly.
Thank you. So now I'd like to ask if there are any questions or comments from the floor. Yes, Nishimura-san, and then Motoko. Yeah.
Nishimura, freelance. Thank you very much for today. As you said, I see some kind of structural problem inside self-defense forces. I wonder what the people around you was doing when they see the sexual assault in front of them. So if someone around you protected you, you would not have indicted those three people. And is there any structural problem inside SDF if you see something about it? Thank you.
フリーランスの西村と申します。自衛隊の中でも構造的な問題があるというふうに見えるんですけれども、当時そのわいせつ行為があった時に周りの人たちはどのような、どのような反応をされていたのでしょうか。もしその時に誰かが五ノ井さんをもし守っていたのであれば、このような事態に、告発もして、それで裁判になるような事態は防ぐことはできたと思うんですけれども、自衛隊の中の構造的な問題についてどのようにお考えでしょうか。
全体的なのはちょっと私は分からないんですけど、私がいた部隊では被害があった後、調査を行われてはいたんですけど、誰一人証言が出てこなかったっていうのもありましたし、身内内で男性隊員同士がかばい合うっていうこともありましたし、口裏合わせをしたりとか、いろんなことがあって証言が出てこなかったっていうのもありました。
I'm not able to speak about the overall situation. However, within the troop in which I was based, where I was stationed after the assault, an investigation did happen internally. However, there was not a single testimony or a single person who spoke out about having witnessed anything. We could see that the male members of the troop were covering up for each other, and they were not speaking out about this, and so not a single person said that they had seen anything.
Okay, Motoko, please.
Gonai-san, thank you so much for coming here and taking our questions. As a result of your speaking out and your case, the Defense Ministry launched an investigation and had some pretty striking findings, and leaders all the way up to General Yoshida and the Defense Minister have promised to change the culture and reduce the number of assaults and try to create the world in which you described. Do you believe them? Do you think, have you heard, I know you're not part of the SDF anymore, but have you heard that there are any measures that you believe will improve the climate inside the SDF? And thank you.
本日は五ノ井さん、本当にお時間ありがとうございます。今回、五ノ井さんが告白してから防衛省の中にも調査が行われました。それがかなりハイレベル、本当大臣レベルまでもその話が届いているということなんですけれども、その大臣または吉田さんなどの発言の中で、自衛隊の中の文化も変える、このようなことは今後は防ぐ、予防をする、または五ノ井さんが話されたような世界を作ることを目指すというようなことが自衛隊のトップとしては発言はされているんですけれども、今は中にはいらっしゃらないと思いますが、そのような話を信じることはできるのでしょうか。改善に向けて何か取り組みなどが自衛隊の中で今行われているなどという、もし聞いている話ですとか周りからまたご自身の考えについてコメントをお願いします。
そうですね、私は最初から声を上げる時も、組織が根本的に変わってほしいという思いで、声を上げてきたので、もちろん組織が、少しずつ変わることは今も信じてますし、今現在も、女性隊員に対しても、配慮がある部隊は増えてきているっていうのは私の耳には入っているので、まだまだそういうハラスメントはあるところはあると、聞いてはいるので、すぐに変わるとは思ってはないんですけど、こういう少しずつ、今回の私の裁判の結果でもあるように笑いを取るためで行った行為は犯罪に当たるので、しっかりそれを、意識の改善をして、再発防止に向けて少しずつ取り組んでほしいなとは思っています。
Since the time, or at the time that I first spoke up about this, I did this also because I did want to see fundamental change within the institution, within the self-defense forces. So even now, I do believe that little by little, the situation will continue to improve, to get better. I am hearing also that there are more troops which are having more consideration, for example, for female members within the SDF. However, at the same time, I am also hearing about harassment still existing in certain places within as well. I don't necessarily expect that there will be immediate overall change. However, I think that little by little we will be seeing improvements. We are seeing improvements. And I think that the verdict in my case yesterday will also help to make sure that people will understand that even if they think that they are doing something to make people laugh, that a crime is a crime. And this will allow them to be more aware of this. And I hope that there can be more steps to improve the understanding of this and to prevent reoccurrence and create the better overall improvement of the SDF.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please. If you can, please state your name and affiliation. Thank you.
お名前と所属の方をお願いします。質問は日本語でも英語でも大丈夫です。
フロイターの村上です。今日はありがとうございました。悪いことは悪いと声を上げる重要性についてもいろいろと言及されてきましたけれども、五ノ井さん、五ノ井さんが被害を訴えられてから自衛隊内でも声を上げていくっていう流れができていると感じられていますでしょうか。五ノ井さんが被害を訴えられて自衛隊内から個人的に五ノ井さんに連絡があったり、どういった反応があるのかを踏まえてちょっと教えていただければと思います。お願いします。
My name is Murakami. You have spoken today and on numerous occasions about what is wrong and how important it is to speak up about this. I'd like to ask, in your reflection, since you first spoke up about this, have you felt that there is more openness or more ability for people to speak out from within the SDF about these kind of incidences? For example, have you had people from within the SDF contacting you directly, or what kind of response has there been, or have you personally experienced?
自衛隊では特別防衛監察も行われていて、その時に声を上げられなかった隊員の方たちが勇気を持って初めて上司の方に話せたとか、それは女性隊員だけではなくて男性隊員の方もやっぱパワハラに遭っている方もいるので、そういう人たちが少しずつ声を上げていってるっていうのは私の耳には入っています。
Since I first spoke out within the STF, there has been a special investigation conducted, and within that, there were many cases of people who earlier had not spoken out about any harassment that they had experienced, but as part of this investigation, first spoke out to their superiors or as part of this as well. This was not only female STF members, but also male members, for example, in relation to power harassment as well. So I do believe that little by little, there are more people and there is more of an environment for being able to speak out.
Okay. If I may ask a question to Ota-sensei about what's going to happen next, because the Fukushima District Court ruled these 3 men had committed forcible indecency against Gonoi-san. But I believe there were 5 people involved in this case, and there is a civil case also waiting to be resolved. So if you could please just tell us the next step.
司会から弁護士の太田さんに質問なんですけれども、昨日判決は刑事裁判での判決は昨日出ましたが、それは強制わいせつの有罪ということだったんですが、今回に関しては昨日の3名に対してではなく民事裁判も現在進行中ということで、そちらは5名が関わっているということなんですけれども、次何がどのようなことが今後あるのか、または民事裁判の方についても状況を説明していただけますでしょうか。
はい、被害者参加弁護士の、太田と申します。まず刑事事件の方に関してですけれども、昨日判決が出ましたので、今日から14日間以内に、被告人らが控訴するかどうかを決定します。で、控訴がなされなければ判決は確定します。で、控訴された場合には審理が高裁に移行します。で、民事裁判に関しては、その場にいた上司を含め、この刑事事件で被告となっている3名プラスその場にいた上司、指示をした2名も、被告として訴えています。で、5名のうち1名刑事裁判になってない人ですけれども、その人との間では民事裁判においてすでに和解が成立しています。で、他4名については、請求を争っておりますので、これから、民事裁判については審理が継続していきます。
So my name is Ota. I am the attorney appointed as on behalf of the victim participation in the criminal court, the criminal case. In regards to the criminal case, yesterday the verdict was made, finding the 3 defendants guilty. They have now 14 days for them to decide whether they will issue or file an appeal in regards to this verdict. If no appeal is submitted within these 14 days, then the guilty verdict will be fixed. If they do appeal, then it will go to the next stage in the appeals court, from appellate court from there. In regards to the civil case which was mentioned, the 3 people who are the defendants in the criminal case are the targets of this, as well as 2 others who are superiors giving orders or instructions at the time. So there are 5 individuals as defendants in this civil case. One of the 5 who is not one of the people who was part of the criminal proceedings, a settlement has already been reached. However, in regards to the other 4, the civil case is still ongoing at the moment.
すみません、1点付け加えますと、民事訴訟は国に対しても、請求をしておりまして、国との間でも今後まだ審理が継続していく予定です。
And to add one point as well, the civil case is also not only these 5 defendants, but also against the state, and this is also ongoing at the moment.
Okay. Yes, please.
朝日新聞の島崎と申します。本日はありがとうございます。五ノ井さんと太田さんにそれぞれ一つずつお伺いしたいんですが、五ノ井さんに対しては、昨日判決ということで、事前の取材では大変やっぱりプレッシャーを感じられていると、重いプレッシャーを感じられているというふうに話されていました。これまでも裁判所に行くたびにとっても辛い思いをされてきたと思うんですけれども、昨日の判決を率直にどういう思いで見つめて聞いていたのか、聞いている最中にどんなことを考えたのか、そして今日の会見までに何か考えられたことがあれば、ちょっとその気持ちのところを教えてもうちょっといただければと思います。で、あと太田さんに 対してはですね、判決の内容でちょっとお伺いしたいんですけれども、性的な意図がなかったとしても性的な意味合いが強いというような裁判長判断をしたと思います。この点について評価といいますかお聞かせください。お願いします。
My name is Shimazaki of the Asahi newspaper. I have one question for each Gonoi-san and Ota-san. First of all, for Ms. Gonoi, you mentioned prior to the issuing of the verdict to the media that you felt a very heavy pressure in regards to the case and in regards to what you would hear. I'd like to hear if you could share a little bit more about how you are feeling now, both how you were feeling at the time of the verdict that was being issued, for example, when you were listening to this, what you were thinking about, how you felt at that time, and also since then as well, from when the verdict was issued.
Yes, and if I may, definitely, if I may add to this question.
Can I finish the translation first? Sorry. So if you could share about how you feel since yesterday until today, and especially about emotionally how your situation is at the moment. Sorry.
That's okay. There is a very related question just in now from Le Figaro's Régis Arnaud. He is asking, on August 1st, you collapsed in court hearing when a superior admitted that he had lied. Can you share what went through your head at this moment?
まず五ノ井さんの質問に関連の質問がオンラインでは届いているので、それも合わせて紹介します。で、答えは合わせてで大丈夫です。こちらフランスのル・フィガロのレジス・アルノという記者からの質問なんですけれども、8月1日の時に裁判所の方で、女子が嘘をついていたということを認めた時に五ノ井さんが倒られたということがあったと思いますが、その時にどのようなこと、その瞬間どのようなことを考えていたのかについて合わせての質問です。そして太田さんへの質問も合わせて通訳します。判決の内容について、sorry, that was the wrong language. I'll translate that into English. Sorry. The question in regards to, for Ms. Ota as well, was in regards to the content of the verdict. It mentioned that while there was not necessarily sexual intention in the acts which were conducted as part of the insult, they did contain a sexual meaning, and this is why a part of the reason that it was indeed found guilty in regards to this. If we could share in a little bit more detail your evaluation of this verdict. じゃあ、お姉さんお願いします。
そうです。判決出る前は本当に、私の中では本当に自分の命を削って法廷の場で立って彼らたちと向き合って、決審まで初公判から決審までやってやっと判決が来る日は本当に前の日も寝れなかったですし、もし仮に、正しい判決が出なかったら私は生きていけるんだろうかとか、いろんなことを考えながら当日を迎えました。
So first of all, before the verdict, how I was feeling then, I really felt that I put everything of my life on the line as part of this struggle through this period, from the first trial proceedings through to the trial conclusion, and then finally this day of the verdict, having to really put everything out there and face up to them throughout this whole process. I couldn't sleep at all the night before the verdict, and I was thinking about what would happen if the correct verdict was not made. Can I even continue living like this? This was the kind of feelings that I had feeling going into the verdict.
有罪判決っていう結果になりましたけど、私が初めの頃からずっと、訴えてきたことが全面的に裁判所で認められて、やっとの思いで報われたなという判決が出たときはすごい、ほっとしたという、ほっとしましたし、すごいやっと報われたという感情でした。
And as the guilty verdict was made then, I felt that what I had continued to speak out about, continued to appeal since the first trial, the fact that that was fully recognized by the court. I felt that this was like, well, finally this had happened, and I felt very much a great relief and sense of this finally having been recognized.
ただ本当は彼ら3名に対して心から、反省してほしい思いで戦っていたので、 私の思いが全く彼らたちには伝わらなかったという面では、残念だったなという思いはあります。
However, really what I have been striving for through this whole process is to have the three of them feel sincere regret from what they have done. And so the fact that my feeling and what I've been speaking about has just not been understood or not been accepted by them is something which is very unfortunate.
だからこそこの、笑いを取るためでは許されない行為は犯罪だということをしっかり、彼らたちにも、知る必要があったと思いますし、日本社会にとっても、悪いものは悪いとこの行為は犯罪なんだと、知らせることもできたのでそれは良かったんじゃないかと思います。
However, I think that showing that something that is done, even if it's done for the purpose of trying to make people laugh, is still a crime, is something that they need to know. And this is also something that needs to be understood by Japanese society, that what is wrong, and that these such acts are indeed a crime as well. So this is something both for them but also for the broader society to understand.
公判中倒れた時は証言台にそうですね、被害の時の元上司の方指示を出された方が、証言してくださった時だったんですけど、やっぱり、公判中の、空気感もそうですけど、やっぱ当時のことを、思い出してしまって、ちょっと血圧が上がって倒れたっていう感じですね。
And in regards to when I collapsed during the court hearings as well, this was at the time when my former superior was speaking or within the court proceedings, and this was the overall feeling then at the time, but also throughout the entire proceedings, this was something which was reminding me or making me remember what had indeed happened, and this was the situation then.
私の方にあった質問ですけれども、状況としましては被告人の一人が、五ノ井さんをベッドに倒した上で腰を前後に動かして振ったっていうことは認めていたものの、それについては笑いを取るためにやった行為であって性的な意図はないんだっていうふうな主張をしていたことについて、裁判所が、判断したものですけれども、強制わいせつの行為というのはその主観的な本人加害者がどういうふうにな意図で行っていたかだけではなくて、その行為が持つそのものの性質ですとか、もういろんな周りの状況ですとか全ての状況いろんな事情に照らして判断するべきですというふうに言った上で、今回の行為というのは性的な意味合いの強い行為ですし、本人も自分の判断で陰部を接触させていて性的意味合いがないから強制わいせつにならないんだっていう主張は、通らないっていうふうに、ご判断いただきました。で、当該判断については当然のことだと思いますし、そういったわいせつ行為があったとしても加害者がそれが笑いを取るためだから大丈夫だっていうような言い訳っていうのは絶対に許されるものではないですし、その行為によって笑いを取るためであれそうでなかれ被害者は傷ついているので当然の判断かなというふうに考えています。
And in regards to the question about the verdict, within this, the defendant admitted the fact that they had pushed her down onto a bed and then with his hips gone back and forth, and said that, however, he did this in order to make people laugh, however, without any kind of sexual intention, which was why he said that this was not recognized as this. However, the judge in his verdict said that in the case, such cases of forced indecent assault, forced sexual assault, regardless, or it is not not only the intention of the perpetrator, which should be considered when making the judgment, however, it is the nature of the act itself, the surrounding context, and many other factors which also need to be taken into account when making a decision in regards to this. And therefore, looking at this act, even if the defendant said that they did not have that intention, did indeed have a strong sexual meaning in regards to that. Therefore, the claim that this was something which had no sexual intention was not something that was accepted by the court. I believe that this decision is something natural, that such kind of assaults are not acceptable, of course, even if the perpetrator says that they were doing it for the purpose of making other people laugh. Either way, whatever this intention is, it is something which hurts the victim, which causes damage, and therefore it is a natural decision that this was indeed found guilty.
Okay. Yes, please.
毎日新聞のみょうちんと言います。五ノ井さん、今日はありがとうございます。今年の9月ですけれども、五ノ井さんの行動は海外にも知られるところとなり、アメリカのタイム誌の次世代の100人に選ばれました。でそのことについての感想を改めて伺いたいのと、あと同じように戦っている女性たちが自衛官にもいるんですが、沖縄のですね、那覇基地にいた現役の女性自衛官がやはり今年2月に国外訴訟を起こしました。もしその原告にエールの言葉があればお願いいたします。
My name is Myochin of the Mainichi newspaper. Thank you, Gonai-san, for your time today. In September of this year, your acts in speaking out have been also recognized internationally, and you were selected as one of the Time magazine's Next 100, I believe. If you could provide some kind of comment about your impression or how this is for you. And next, there are other women within the SDF who are facing the same kind of struggles, the same kind of situation. There is one current SDF member in the Naha base in Okinawa who in February of this year also filed a legal suit. I'd like to ask if you have any kind of message of support to her.
声を上げてから海外の皆さんにすごい評価していただいて、私はいつもこの声を上げたことに対してずっと私の行動は間違ってたのかとかいろいろ一人で考えることがあったんですけど、やっぱそこには誹謗中傷があったりとかいろんな言われたくない言葉もたくさん来た中で、評価してくださる場所が、あるっていうところに私はすごく救われました。
Since speaking up, people from outside of Japan have continuously encouraged or highly evaluated what I have done, my acts, since I've spoken out. At times when, of course, I was wondering whether I had indeed done the right thing, whether it was wrong to speak up. At times when I was experiencing slander or having to hear words that nobody would want to hear against me, knowing that there was somewhere that recognized or accepted and praised what it was that I was doing was something which was a great support or help to me.
そうですね、評価していただくためにやってきたわけではないんですけど、どうしても日本で声を上げると、心を引き裂くような批判的な声がたくさん届いて、もちろん応援はありますけど、そういう声、悲観的な声が結構届く中で、女性100人BBC でもそうですしタイム誌でも、選出していただいて、ニューヨークにも行って直接、海外の方にストレートに君が行動していることは間違ってないと、評価して その言葉をもらったときに、私の声を上げたことは、間違ってなかったなと確信に変わったので、こういう機会をいただけたことはすごい、私の中ではすごく大きかったです。
Of course, I'm not doing any of this just for the purpose of being praised. However, when we do speak out about something like this in Japan, well, of course, there is some words of support we hear. At the same time, there is a lot of really criticism so harsh that it's really heartbreaking as well. Therefore, being selected in these 100 people by the BBC and Time magazine, having the opportunity to go to New York and to speak directly with people from overseas as well, and have them say to me very directly, your actions, what you did was not wrong. These kind of words were something which helped me to become certain also within myself that speaking out was something that I was not doing the wrong thing there. So receiving such opportunities like this have been very significant for me.
その私以外でもまだまだその戦っている方はいるというお話でしたけど、私もあまり詳しくはその事件の内容とかわからないんですけど、内容はどうあれ戦っている、身としては無理をしないように自分に素直になって、そうですね、本当に戦うっていうことは本当に命を削ってると同じことだと思ってるので、でも自分が真実だと思うことはしっかり貫いて、頑張ってほしいなと思っています。
And as for other people still fighting, still struggling in similar circumstances, I don't know the details of that specific case to speak out, but as someone also within the midst of this kind of struggle, I think it's important to to be honest to yourself. While taking up this kind of a fight is something which is really putting yourself or your life on the line in a way, but knowing that you are doing the right thing, knowing that it is the truth to continue, and I just wish them the best.
Okay. Any other questions? 1, 2. Yes. Go ahead.
Thanks for coming. I'm Elizabeth Palmer from CBS News, American Television. I want to say that I very much admire your courage. And I would like to know about your family. How much of a journey has this been for them? How are they feeling about you now? And did this court decision bolster them in some way, help them help you?
アメリカの CBS のエリザベス・パーマーと申します。まず本日本当にありがとうございます。そして五ノ井さんの有勤を尊敬をしています。ご家族について伺いしたいんですけれども、この間のことを家族にとってはどのようなことだったのか、今もご家族はどのような気持ちでいるのか、また昨日の判決が出たということで、ご家族に対してそれが力になったのか、そのようなご家族がどのような状況にいるのかということについてコメントお願いします。
まず8月の件で被害に遭った時は母親にSOS を求めてメッセージを送ったり、最初のそこから今に至るまで、私のお母さんも何度も、組織に掛け合ってくれたりといろいろ協力はしてくれました。
So first of all, in regards to my mother, from the first time of the incident and in August, when I sent her by message, an SOS call really at the time, since then she has very much stood by me from then and until now, going together several times, for example, to the SDF to speak to them and so on as well. And she's been very supportive within this process.
今は住んでいるところは離れてるんですけど、まだ自衛隊内にいるとき、被害に遭って休職中のときに、 そうですね、被害届を出して、そこから、私一人で戦ってきたんですけど、不起訴になってしまった時に、一番近くで支えてくれたのは、お母さんだったので、今回の判決を出た時もしっかりお母さんには、支えてくれてありがとうと伝えました。
And although we are not living close by now, we are living apart now. At the time, initially, when I was on leave from my job within the SDF after the assault, and from when I first submitted the report, I was very much fighting alone in this. However, after the defendants were not indicted, she was the person who was standing the most by me, who was supportive and really together with me, my mother, throughout all of this as well. And after receiving the guilty verdict yesterday, then I also wrote to her, of course, to say, well, thank you for your support throughout this.
Okay. Any other? Yes, please.
Hello, Mara Bajan, Japan Times. Thank you very much for coming here today. So obviously you spoke out about what happened to you, but another thing you've spoken out about is the culture of victim shaming that you had to face. You know, like the online attacks that, this barrage of online attacks that hit you. But then on the other hand, you said that overseas you felt like you received more support and people were kind of listening to your message. My question is, do you feel that you received any specific support within Japan, maybe from specific people or groups, or even from the wider public? And related to that, you know, where do people who, women or even just people who have gone through what you did, where can they turn to in Japan? Thank you very much.
ジャパンタイムズのマラバジンと申します。今回、五ノ井さんが発言されていることの中で、実際の事件についてだけではなくて、やはりその日本の文化の中で、その被害者のことを、ビクティムシェーミングという言葉があるんですけれども、被害者をオンラインで誹謗中傷したりなどというようなことが、日本の中にあるということについても、さまざまな発言をされているんですけれども、また海外の方で、日本よりも、サポートをしていただく人、声を聞いていただく人というようなこともあるかと思うんですけれども、質問の方は日本の国内で特に、例えばその特定の個人でもグループでもそのような支援ですとかサポートは日本国内にはどのようなものがあったのか、もしくは一般的な社会の方からのサポート、または関連なんですけれども、日本でこのようなこと、被害に遭った人たちをどのようなところに、行くべきなのか、どこに話を持っていくべきなのかということについての関連の2つ目の質問です。まず国内のサポートですね。
私が誹謗中傷を受けてた時は何か支援をしてくださる場所っていうのは別に探していなかったというか、私は本当に近くにいた友人とか、そうですね、友人とかによく相談をして一緒に出かけたりとか、そういうことで気分を晴らしたりしてました。だからそういうどういう質問ですか？なんだっけ、なんか私は別に誹謗中傷窓口っていうのはあんまり分かってはないので、誹謗中傷を受けて傷ついた時は本当にこれは許せないと思ったものは警察に相談をしましたし、 被害届も出してしっかり罰金30万円と侮辱罪で罰金30万円と何でしたっけ、罰金30万円となんだっけ、略式起訴になって罰金30万円を支払って、終えたものもあるんですけど、誹謗中傷に対してちょっと質問ずれるかもしれないですけど、誹謗中傷に対して思うのはやっぱり言葉は凶器だと思ってますし、それを受け取った側は一生の傷にもかかわらず、そういう心を、殺すような言葉を使った人は、たった罰金30万円で許される日本の法律はちょっと私はあまり納得はいってないです。
So first of all, when I was experiencing this kind of slander online, I don't necessarily know about which, or in terms of a place to support, I wasn't necessarily seeking out a particular place or service to help at that time. However, it was the friends close to me who I spoke to about this, who they helped me throughout this as well. We would go out together and they would help me to feel better in this situation as well. I don't specifically know details of what kind of consultation or support counseling services there might be, but in cases of something which is severe, I did also go to the police to file reports against this, for example. And there was a case where, in regards to online slander, also a fine of 300,000 Japanese yen was issued to the person responsible for this in one finding, for example. However, what I really feel about this kind of slander is that words are a weapon, and they are something which can really harm someone or cause lifelong harm. So when we have these kinds of situations of people using words that have the power of really destroying someone's heart or spirit in a way, the Japanese law, which all that they find them accountable for is a 300,000 yen Japanese fine. This is not something which I feel is enough or is acceptable.
Any more? 1, 2. So, first you.
ありがとうございます。TBS テレビの横山と申します。
Can you speak to the microphone?
はい。
どうぞ。はい。
すみません。TBS テレビの横山と申します。この判決で一つ前例を作ったわけですけれども、この声を上げてからの1年半っていうのはたくさん苦しいこともあったと思うんですね。今後、五ノ井さんの経験を踏まえて、これから声を上げる人に対してどういった社会になってほしいのか、また声を上げることに対して今何が障害になっているのか伺えますでしょうか。
My name is Yokoyama of TBS. The verdict which was issued yesterday, I believe, creates a kind of precedent as well. While there were many difficulties for you in the past 1.5 years, when we think about your experience, or I'd like to ask, what kind of society do you hope to be created for people who have spoken out in this kind of way from now? And also, what do you think are the obstacles or the hurdles which prevent people from speaking out?
– 本当にまだまだ声を上げられない人たちがたくさんいて、声を上げても取り合ってもらえないという方々も、たくさんいるので、まず本当に、その場の環境をしっかり声を上げやすい環境になってほしいなと思いますし、私は本当に告発が正しい戦い方だとは思ってないので、こういう実名とか顔を晒してやることがもう今後起きても欲しくないと思ってますし、こうなる前にしっかり今いる環境で声を上げて解決に導いて、お互い不利益がないような環境になってほしいなと思ってますし、 声を上げた人を叩く世の中ではなくて、もっと、一人一人が、深く考えて、視野を広く持って、いい批判的な言葉じゃなくていい未来に向かっていくようなみんな考え方をしてほしいなとは思ってます。
There are still many people who are now not able to speak out, or some who are speaking out, but this is not being listened to or action being taken in regards for this. I really hope that there can be in each environment, or it can be made easier for people to be able to speak out for this. As I said, for me, I don't think that having to speak out in this way or fighting in this way is the correct way that it should be. And I hope that no one else will have to speak out in the way that I have, bringing also my face, my real name in public in this kind of way as well. I hope that, or the situation should be resolved before it ever reaches that kind of point as well. Should be able to be resolved before someone has to speak out in this way, and there should be able to be a way to build relationships which are not at a disadvantage to anyone there as well. When we also think about the society where people who do speak out, therefore, or then undergo bashing as well, I think that I really hope that we can create a kind of society where each and every person can think about things more carefully, can have a broader perspective, not use these kind of critical words, but rather think about what can be done to create a better future.
声を上げる妨げになっていることについては、やっぱり私が舞台にいた時はもしこの件を誰かに話してしまったら情報が言ってしまって言いづらくなってしまうとか、なんかそういう心境になったり、なんか悪くないのになんか悪いんじゃないかとか考えてしまったりとか、なんか自分を責めるような感じで持ってしまってたので、あとはハラスメントとかだったら泣き寝入りしてしまう人が世の中にたくさんいると思っているので、なので今回は私は性暴力とハラスメントってずっと言ってきましたけども、ハラスメントであっても犯罪、どうしてもなんかハラスメントと性暴力ってハラスメントの方が軽いってなんか思われてますけど、私はそう思ってなくて、ハラスメントだって犯罪なので、それを今回こうやって示したかったですし、コミュニケーションの一環であっても笑いを取るためであってもハラスメントと言われるものであっても犯罪は犯罪なので、しっかりそこは今回この判決に有罪判決で分かったと思うので、どんどん男女ともにですけど泣き寝入りせず声を上げていってほしいなとは思ってますね。決して悪いことではないと思っているので、そうですね。
And as for obstacles or things which are stopping people from speaking out, for me, when I was still in the troops, still in the SDF, I was thinking about, well, if I did speak out about this, would it be hard for me to stay here? Would it be hard for me to remain here? I was very worried and concerned about this situation. And although I knew that I was not in the wrong, I was feeling that perhaps I was doing something wrong, criticizing or blaming myself as well. And when we think about, of course, this harassment that many people undergo, but is often very much ignored or neglected as well. But I think that we need to recognize that both sexual violence and harassment are also crimes and should be called, therefore, as well. There is a tendency of people maybe to see harassment as something much lighter or not as serious. But we also really need to recognize that harassment is also a crime, and I think that the verdict yesterday, the guilty verdict, has shown this, has proven this as well. So showing that harassment, no matter what kind of situation or crime, is a crime, and this is something shown by the guilty verdict. This is something that I also hope that for both men and women, if they are in that kind of situation, that they should be able to not just let it by, but be able to speak out about this and not feel bad about doing so.
And if I might just add, to support what Gonoi-san is saying about this ignoring or dismissing complaints about these sexual harassment or other kinds of harassment, I believe a report was commissioned by the Ministry of Defense in August, and it found 1,325 reports of harassment, but the victims are saying they felt passed around by counselors or thrown in the rubbish. And this is despite these people having met the counselors, so some of them said they never received a response even from the self-defense forces.
はい、補足なんですけれども、今回の五ノ井さんの告白の後にも防衛省の中で調査が行われまして、8月にその結果が報告されたときに1325件のハラスメントが報告されたというようなことがありました。でその中でそのハラスメントを受けた人たちの中で、例えば告白をしてもカウンセラーと話しても、そこがなかなかちゃんと対応が取られてないですとか、反応も返事ももらえなかったなどというようなケースも報告されているということのハラスメントについて補足させていただきます。
I think we have time for 2 more questions. Oh, we have 4. Okay, can you stay a bit more? Can they stay 5 more minutes? Like
お時間あと5分ぐらい。
Okay, so we have the final 4 questions. So please be very short.
あと5分延長しますので、質問の方なるべく短めでお願いします。
AP 通信の山口と申します。今日は来てくださってありがとうございます。自衛隊は女性の隊員の方の数が圧倒的に少なくて、国会よりも比率が低いということが私調べて分かったんですが、そういう男性中心であるという組織であることや、あるいは役職によってすごくランクがはっきりしているということで、例えばもともと女性をやっぱり軽く見るとか、あるいは後輩の人、あるいはランクが下の人が軽く見られるっていうような空気があって、そしていろいろ声を上げにくいというようなことを感じられたことがあるか、そして女性にも活躍して今後はこういう問題がないようにもっと大勢の女性が活躍できる場所にするために具体的に例えばどういうふうに根本的に変わるべきだと思われるでしょうか。というのが一つごめんなさい、五ノ井さんへの質問で、もう一つ太田先生に聞きたいのは今回のこの判決が民事の方に何かプラスの効果があるのかどうかということを教えてください。よろしくお願いします。
My name is Yamaguchi of the AP. Thank you very much for coming today. Within the SDF, it is an institution which has very few women, overwhelmingly fewer women than men in the first place. I looked up and actually it's a lower ratio of women even compared to the Diet, for example. In such a male-centered institution, and it is also an institution which is very rank-oriented, which has a very hierarchical division there as well. And so people of a lower rank who could be looked down upon, or women in this regard, I'd like to ask if you think this contributes to making it more difficult to speak out in such an institution. Also, of course, we hope that in the future it will be more possible for women to play an active role, and that there will be no such such cases can be prevented for the future. I'd like to ask what kind of fundamental change you would like to see in the SDF in order to enable that. And last, a question for Ms. Ota. Would like to ask if you think that yesterday's verdict will have any kind of positive impact on the civil suit proceedings.
1つ目の質問に関しては、全部がそういうところではないと思いますし、私のいた部隊は、もちろん訓練の時はしっかり男女同じ、しっかり訓練はしてますし、そういうのは充実した日々なんですけど、やっぱそういう宴会があったり、私の部隊はですけど宴会があったり、そういうの場で、女性隊員をものとして扱うような、笑いを取るためにとか、そういうのが私の部隊ではあったので、訓練自体は別に今のままでいいと思いますし、 それが上下関係がどうとかはもちろん訓練はきつくて当然ですし厳しい言葉があっても当然だと思っているので、ただそれ以外での普通の訓練とか関係ない私生活においてそういう人格を否定するような言葉を言ったりとか、そういう女性隊に対してそういう傷つけるような発言をしてしまうっていうのはやっぱり、変わってほしいなとは思ってます。でも本当に、全部が全部そういう場所ではないですし、しっかり正義感を持って真面目に働いてくださっている方たちがほぼだと思うんで、私の舞台はそういう感じだったという。はい。
In regards to the first question, I wouldn't say that all parts within the SDF are like that. For example, within the troop in which I was based during the trainings, both men and women were treated the same way, and I was able to spend very fulfilling time in that regards as well while we were working. It was the outside of the training times when there were drinks or these gatherings and so on of the troop where women were, treated as objects, treated as something for making fun of or as a target for laughing, for example. So that within the training itself, that is not something where I see that there is a need for any kind of change. And I think that these kind of hierarchical relationships are, to an extent, of course, part and parcel or part of this training. There is also a time when harsh words are needed in the situation there itself, but I didn't experience that kind of issue within the training. However, it was in the unrelated private life where these issues were occurring, where female members were being criticized on a very personal level, where harmful statements were made regularly and so on. And this is something which I think needs to be changed. But I wouldn't say that everywhere within the organization is like that. There are, of course, many people who are working very dedicatedly and with a sense of justice and so on, but that was the situation, at least within my troop.
なので何が改善が必要かっていうのは、本当に訓練以外のところでの、上下関係だったりとかそういうところで行き過ぎた指導っていうのはパワハラっていうんですかね、そういうのとか、私は男性隊員の方同士でもそういうのは見てたりしてたので、本当になんて言うんでしょう、男性だからとか女性だからとかじゃなくて、本当にお互いが訓練以外でも働きやすい環境になってほしいなとは思ってます。
And as to what kind of improvements are needed, I think this is really what is happening outside of the training. This is where the hierarchical relationships or acts which go too far, power harassment and so on. But how to express this, not rather than because you're a man or because you're a woman, but I hope that not only within the training but outside the training we can also create a kind of environment where it is easy for people to work together as well.
であとはもっと組織内の、上司の方々がしっかり、正しい正義感を持ってもしハラスメントの相談があるのであればしっかり対応できる上司の方であってほしいと私は思ってますし、はい、そうですね、もちろん自分の保身を考えるのは分かるんですけど、やっぱり目の前でハラスメントで苦しんでいる隊員の部下の方たちがいればしっかり対応してほしいなって、しっかり配慮した上で対応してほしいなっていうのはありますね。
And as to, or another thing that I hope can be improved, or what I would like to see within the institution, is superiors who have or are able to act with a correct sense of justice and know that if harassment is occurring, that they're able to respond in the proper way then as well. Of course, there are certain factors there as well, but if they know that there is someone, particularly someone junior to them, who is suffering as a result of harassment, I hope that they will be able to have the proper consideration and take the proper treatment or measures from there. This is the kind of superiors who I hope that they can, or that they should see.
そうですね。
私の方にありました、今回の刑事裁判が民事の手続きにおいてもプラスになるかというご質問ですけれども、今回、民事裁判においても、国以外の個人の被告は、この8月の、行為、今回、刑事裁判で問題となったような行為について争っているので、我々の方で、原告である我々の方で立証しないといけないんですけれども、今回、刑事裁判で認められたことで、裁判所もそれを前提に判断してくれるでしょう、民事の裁判所もそれを前提としていただけるかと思いますし、もちろんプラスに働くであろうと考えております。
As for the question about whether the verdict in this criminal trial will have a positive impact on these civil proceedings, it is these same acts of the individual defendants who are a matter of concern within these civil proceedings as well. And though, of course, we as the plaintiffs need to still continue to prove this within the courts as well, the fact that it has been recognized in the criminal proceedings will indeed be something which will be taken into consideration within the civil proceedings as well. So I do believe that it will have a positive impact in that regard.
Okay, we had the question there and there, I believe, and there. Yeah, the final 3 questions, please. Thank you.
これで残り3つの質問を受け付けます。
こんにちは、五ノ井さんお疲れ様です。昨日の裁判お疲れ様でした。
Can you introduce yourself?
Sorry. ロイター通信の岡本と申します。よろしくお願いします。昨日で裁判、長い戦いが終わったと思うんですけど、ご自身の人生で一つの区切りだと思うんですけど、今一番やりたいこととか、まだまだ24歳で人生長いと思うんですけど、今までこの数年間できなかったこと、また新しい夢とか目標があったら教えてください。で、この数年間その経験したことがその新しい夢とか目標にどう影響したかあれば教えてください。
My name is Okamoto of Reuters. First of all, the long struggle throughout the proceedings has ended yesterday, and this is perhaps one marking point within your life as well. I'd like to ask if you're still only 24 years old, still very young, have a long way ahead of you, if there is anything that you particularly want to do from now, anything that perhaps you couldn't do during these past few years, or if you have any kind of new goal or a new dream, and if you do, what kind of influence your experience over these past years has had on that.
そうですね、本当にこの判決まで自分の命を削って戦ってきて、まずはちょっと心を休めたいなと思いつつ、でも自分の人生なので、自分らしく生きていきたいなとありますし、本当に私は小さい頃から柔道をやっていたので、今もフラッシュバックでなかなかできない日もあるんですけど、でもやっぱ救われた後半中も何度も、心折れそうになった時も柔道で救われてきたので、そういうなんて言うんでしょうね、何度投げられても立ち上がる強さっていうのを柔道で教えてもらって、それは人生においても何度世の中にいろいろ言われても何度でもその立ち上がる強さっていうのは柔道で教えてもらったので、そういう、人生において必要な力を柔道があると思っているので、その、私の生きがいである柔道を、今後いろんな人に、柔道の体験を通して伝えていきたいなと思ってたり、なかなかあんまり今後については決まってはないんですけど、本当に今までできなかったことをやってみたいこと、いろんなことを挑戦して、この生きる姿を今までその強い姿しか見せてなかったかもしれないので、もっと普通の人間なんだよっていうのを表していきたいというか、本当に決まってないんですけど、とにかく自由に自分らしく生きていきたいなと思ってます。
until this verdict, really everything within my life and really putting everything towards this as well. So first of all, I want to have some time, first of all, to rest both emotionally there as well, and have some time to myself in that regards as well. Judo is something which I have been doing since I was very small, and it's something that even during the days of the trial, it's been a great support to me, even at times when I felt that really my heart was perhaps even about to break. Judo was something which was very helpful, despite the fact that on some days it was very difficult for me to do due to flashbacks which were coming back then as well. But judo is something which has taught me over the years how to stand up once again, even after you're thrown down so many times. And this is an important lesson, not only for judo, but also within life as well. And this is something which I've really been able to learn, no matter what I'm going through, no matter what is said to me, being able to stand up again from that is something which I think judo has taught me as a power or a strength that is necessary for life as well. So in that regards, with judo as in a way one of my purposes or sense for living, I hope to be able to create more opportunities for many other people to experience judo in the future as well. I haven't necessarily made or nothing decided about that, but I want to also try many new challenges of things which I haven't been able to do in this time until now. Also, until now, I've only perhaps been able to show my strong face, but I also want to be able to show that I'm just a normal human as well, show this normal side there as well. So while it's not decided yet, I'm looking for, or I'm hoping to be able to live free and live true to myself from now.
あとはそうですね、やっぱハラスメントに対してここまで戦ってきたので、私の言葉が誰かの勇気とかきっかけに変わるんであれば、どこかに行ってお話をしたいなと思ってますし、そうですね、やれることはいい世の中になれるんであればいろんなことをしていきたいなと、この経験をそうですね、声を上げる大切さをいろんな人に知ってもらいたいなとは思ってます。
And also in regards to the harassment, what I have been standing up and fighting against till now, I hope that if in any way my words can provide some kind of a courage to someone or some kind of encouragement or moment for someone else to speak out as well. This is something which, if I can, through this or being able to utilize this experience to contribute to making a better world or recognizing the importance of speaking out, I also want to continue to do things in regards to that.
Okay. Yes, please.
昨日からお疲れ様です。共同通信の湯山と申します。先ほど、その判決が出て報われたというようなご発言があったと思うんですが、でその有罪判決が意義深いことは確かだと思うんですけれど、一方で五ノ井さんが負った傷だったり夢を諦めざるを得なかった事実は変わらないと思います。性暴力が人生を変えてしまうという重い事実を我々が忘れないように、特に改めハラスメント問題に関して訴えたいことをお聞かせいただきたい。で特にその世界と比較して日本はどのようなところがまだまだ足りないだとか、そういう目に映るところがあればお伺いできればと思います。
I'm from Kyoto News. You mentioned that the verdict yesterday was a great relief or saved you in a way as well. However, of course, a guilty verdict, while it is something very important, it is not something which will get rid of the harm which has been caused to you or will bring back the dreams which you've had to give up there as well. So I'd like to ask if you have any particular kind of message in regards to harassment, particularly to ensure that overall that society is reminded of or remembers the importance of this as well. Particularly if we look at the fact that perhaps compared to other countries, Japan is still insufficient in regards to its recognition or understanding of this, if you have a particular message about that.
Mm. 先ほどその質問で性暴力は人生を変えるっていうのは言ってましたけど、ハラスメントも一緒だと思ってて、やっぱ 記者の皆さんもそういう意識、性暴力とハラスメントを別に考えないで、しっかり一緒に考えるような、それぐらい重い罪だと思ってますし、ハラスメントであってもやられた人は人生変わるかもしれないですし、本当に一緒の傷を負っているので、それは性暴力も一緒だと思ってます。だからそういう別々に捉えるんではなくて、本当に重い罪なんだって、ハラスメントだって重い罪なんだっていう報道も大事だと思います。
So first of all, the reporter referred to sexual violence as being something which causes damage, which is life-lasting. And Gunai-san wanted to add that it's not only sexual violence, but also harassment itself, which is something which causes indeed the same kind of lifelong damage as well. And I would like to appeal to journalists to think about both of these issues as crimes which are just as serious as well. Harassment is also something which can cause this lifelong harm to the victim. So not to take sexual violence and harassment as things which are on different levels of severity.
.日本ではやっぱり声を上げる難しさが結構あると思ってます。こうやって世の中に声を上げるっていうのも難しいですし、今いる環境で声を上げる人もなかなか難しい。やっぱりそこには表に出る人に対してはやっぱり誹謗中傷が来てしまうっていうのがあるので、中で声を上げてもなかなか解決されないっていうのがあったりとか、そうですね。
So to translate up until there, I think that it is especially difficult in Japan to speak up, both difficult to speak out publicly, but also to speak out even within your own context or your own environment there as well. For people who do come out and speak out publicly, then there is also the slander or the bashing and so on comes. And for people who speak out internally, also often, even after speaking out, issues are not resolved or dealt with.
ちょっと海外のどういう海外で声を上げた人がどういう海外の人たちの反応がちょっと私は経験してないのでわからないんですけど、だからその違いがよく分かってはないんですけど、ただ違いが分かるとすれば、こうやって表に声を上げた人に対して海外の人たちはしっかり評価をしてくれる場所があるっていうのが声を上げた人にはすごい救いなんじゃないかなと思います。その反面、日本ではやっぱり誹謗中傷とかしか思いつかないといいますか、なかなか評価してくれる場所はないんじゃないかなとは思いますね。そういう人たちに対して、もちろん評価をされる声を上げている人たちって評価されるためにやってるわけじゃないと思ってますし、なんですけど、やっぱ報道の仕方もそうですけど、もうちょっと難しいんですけど、本当に優しい世の中になってほしいなとは思ってます。そういう面に対しては、そういう表に出る人たちに対してしっかりちょっとすみません、ちょっとまとまらないんですけど、
Maybe until then the interpreter can.
As for the element in comparison or regarding people who speak up overseas and what kind of response they have, well, of course that's not something which I have myself experienced, so it's difficult for me to say or to speak directly in comparison about that. But the one thing I would say is that in regards to people who are speaking out publicly in this kind of way, I felt that there are these kinds of words of encouragement, or this is something which is seen as a positive thing from people overseas. However, in Japan, I think that what we see more is a slander, or that's really the only response for people who are speaking out, this backlash against them in that regards. Of course, we're not doing this just for the purpose of being praised or being encouraged in this kind of way, but I would also say maybe in regards to also the media reporting about this as well. It's difficult to find how to express this, but I just wish that we could have more of a society which is kinder, especially to people who do speak out publicly about this, but it's a bit hard to summarize my thoughts.
Thank you. I'm going to have to ask the last, please, question to be posed because we are running out of time. Thank you.
これで最後の質問とさせていただきます。
読売新聞の溝田と申します。本日はありがとうございます。何度か苦渋の決断の末に声を上げたというふうにおっしゃっておりまして、声を上げる非常に勇気が必要なことだと思います。我々が想像することが難しいほどの辛さがあったと思うんですけれども、最後に声を上げられた、その苦渋の決断の末に声を上げられたそのきっかけ、最後背中を押したもの、ご自身の中で何か誰かの言葉ですとか過去の経験ですとか、先ほどちょっと柔道のお話も出ましたけれども、そういったものが何かこのファーストステップを踏むその背中を押したものがあるのであれば教えていただけますか。ありがとうございます。
My name is Mizuta of the Yomiuri. You've mentioned several times that it was a very difficult decision to decide to speak out. And this is something which I think needs great courage, which is perhaps difficult for all of us to imagine just how difficult that would have been. I'd like to ask if there was a particular anything which made you make that decision actually at that moment, if it was any words from a particular person, if it was any experience that you had before. You've spoken about judo and what that has taught you as well, but was there any particular word or experience or something which it was that pushed you to make that final decision to speak out publicly?
声を上げる前までは本当に、悔しいことだったり悲しいことだったり理不尽なことだったりたくさんあっての声を上げたことでもあったんですけど、でも本当に私は、そうですね。私がその受けた被害についてなかったことにしたくないっていう思いとか、私の舞台でも同じような被害を受けた女性隊員もいたり、私にしてきたその事実っていうのを認めて、謝罪が欲しいっていう一心でもあったり、本当に二度と同じような被害が起きてほしくない、同じように夢と希望を持って入った新隊員の子たちがすぐ辞めることがないように根本的に組織が変わってほしいという思いで声を上げました。
So before I spoke out, it was many things happened which were very frustrating or sad or unfair at the time as well. But for me, I wanted very much to make sure that the assault I experienced was not just treated like it had never happened. Also, the fact that there were other female members or members of my troop who experienced the same kind of thing was also one of the reasons as well. I wanted the facts of what had been done to me recognized, and I wanted an apology in regards to this as well, but particularly wanted to ensure that the same thing would not be allowed, or didn't want the same thing to ever happen again. Didn't want future people who are newly signing up to the SDF with their dreams and hopes to have to quit as well. So therefore I wanted to see some kind of fundamental change in the organization was what made me make the decision.
でも本当に 本当は組織内で私の件を解決してほしかったんですけど、私は自衛隊、東日本大震災で自衛官に助けてもらって憧れて入ったので、自衛隊に対しては本当に感謝の気持ちと、純粋に好きという気持ちもあったので、これをこの本件を世に出すっていうことも非常に私の中では辛いというか、自分が夢を持って入りたいと思った場所をこういう形で表に出してしまうっていうのはもちろんいろんな誹謗中傷もあると思ってましたし、だから本当に自衛隊に対しても、複雑な思いがあって、本当に、悩んで迷ったんですけど、やっぱり私の中ではなかったことにしたくないっていうのと、本当に感謝しているからこそいい方向に根本的にそういうハラスメントがない組織であってほしいってすごい思いが強くて、こういう行動も出たっていうのもあって、本当にまだまだ日本では伝わってはないんですけど、自衛隊を批判したいとかじゃなくて、本当に私は純粋に自衛隊が好きで感謝しているからこそ根本的に変わってほしいってすごく今も思ってます。
Originally, I wanted for my case to be resolved within the organization. That was what I was hoping for. I myself also joined the SDF after having been saved by the self-defense forces at the time of the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami. And it was because of my admiration from them and gratefulness, my thankfulness from that, and purely just liking the SDF that I held these dreams and joined the SDF in the first place. Therefore, coming out in public about this was something for myself very difficult to decide. Having these kind of dreams as the reason that I was signing up, and then having to bring the organization out in public like this was something which is very complicated feelings for me as well. And I was very unsure or uncertain about what to do for a long period in regards to this. But it's the fact that that I was thankful to the SDF in the first place, that I want to see fundamental change in the organization, that I wanted to see it become an organization without harassment. And this is the strong feelings which pushed me to make the decision. Of course, I didn't want or like to do this, and I think it's still not really understood or conveyed in Japan that I'm not doing this because I just want to speak badly of or criticize the SDF. Rather, it's because I not only like the SDF, but I'm so thankful that I want to see fundamental change in the organization, and this is still how I feel today.
Thank you, Gonoi-san. We hope your courage is an important milestone in creating this society where women in Japan can freely live, jibun rashiku, like you put it, whether they serve in the army or they are in politics or at work, at home, and they are no longer facing backlash for raising their voices, especially about sexual harassment and violence. Rina Gonoi, thank you very much for being with us today, and thank you also to Aiko Ota for your support, and Mary Joyce for your wonderful interpretation. Thank you.